Welcome in, Chiefs Kingdom. Another week, another edition of the AP Film Room. Although it is a little different this week, fellas. This is the first time we're actually going to be reviewing plays from a loss since the AP Film Room has existed. The 34-31 loss to the Bengals on Sunday. The first time us as a group is going to be looking at plays from a loss. How weird is that? I'll start with Talon. How are you doing today? How are you recovering from the loss?
Yeah, that was a rough one. Silver lining, though, I don't feel like the Chiefs were the worst team. I don't feel like they got beat by a better team or anything like that. The things that went wrong, obviously, the referees is a big topic, but the things that went wrong are fixable. So,
Yeah.
if a loss like this happens, I'll take it, late in the season rather than division game.
Yeah, Brian, how are you today? How are you tonight?
Doing pretty good. I think we can all say, well, you already hit on it. I mean, this is the first time we're reviewing a loss, and so it's kind of some humble pie. We've been riding a wave, especially the defense, which we're going to be looking at tonight, and maybe that's what we needed, and maybe I think that's definitely what they needed. And so what's done is done. It's kind of like Coach Reed said today. They're moving on. We've got to, review what happened, but also move on too, because everything's still in front of them. So that's the good news.
Yeah, exactly. And you hit it right there. We are talking about the defense tonight. We're gonna have a little bit shortened version. It's just a short week. We got a game on Saturday, and so we all were pretty crunched on time in terms of getting everything reviewed and ready for the film. But yeah, Talon hit on it when he was talking. The fact that I agree, Talon. I don't think the Chiefs were the worst team. I think it was more just the Bengals happened to make the right plays, and I think the Chiefs allowed them to in a few instances, and that's actually what we're going to get going on with tonight. So, first play we're looking at tonight. So, Ja'Marr Chase was the star of the game, right? He's number 1 for Cincinnati, top 5 pick, wide receiver, and he had some great plays for sure. I think we all remember that first play. He just caught a quick sit route over the middle. All of a sudden, he's gone for 70 yards. It's an impressive play for sure, but I think this play is not as impressive on his part, rather just unimpressive on the part of a few Chiefs coverage defenders here and on Spagnuolo. So here we see Chiefs, it's 3rd and 4. Chiefs want to go to about a cover 2, basically just a basic cover 2 zone in their dime package, which means Sorensen is on the field. Now, usually we see Sorensen kind of closer to the line of scrimmage in a box safety role. No, Spagnuolo decides this play for whatever reason. We want Matthew to be the guy close to the line of scrimmage. You can see him in the white sleeves on the top of the screen, closer to the top of the screen, I should say. And they got Sorensen back in the deep safety role. And exactly what happens here is that the Bengals take advantage of Sorensen in that deep half field coverage in cover 2. Sorensen just appears to, I don't know. I don't even know what to tell you on this one, honestly. I mean, it's he has that deep half. You'd think he'd get as deep as any of the deepest receivers, not let anyone get over him. But yet he bites on a quick out route for whatever reason. But also, I just think it's a lot on Spagnuolo putting him in those positions, putting him in a position where we've seen him earlier this season struggle as a deep field safety, and yet we still play him there for whatever reason, especially on the same side as Ja'Marr Chase. So, Talon, I'll throw it to you here. I focus in on Sorensen because, I mean, that's what makes this play. It's what turns it into, rather than like maybe just a 30-yard, 20-yard catch at the touchdown. But it's not just on Sorensen, is it, on this play?
No, yeah, Sorensen gets little to no help from his cornerback here, Rashad Fenton. In a cover 2, you want to funnel your receivers inside, get hands on them, jam them at the line, just try to disrupt any sort of deep pass that's coming. And Fenton does none of that. 0 hands, his eyes are inside. Yeah, he does gives 0 resistance to the outside, and Chase just has a clear path right at the sideline, and that is just fundamentally horrible football when it comes to cover 2 coverage. And yeah, I know 3rd and 4 playing the sticks, but man, you got Ja'Marr Chase. He's already burnt you guys once. You can't let it happen again, and he provides 0 help to Sorensen.
Yeah, real quick before I throw it to you, Brian. One thing, now that you mention it, about Fenton not creating any physicality at the line, disrupting his route. Could that be a reason why Sorensen takes such a flat angle? Maybe he thinks that disruption at the line of scrimmage allows him to maybe have a few more seconds to where he doesn't have to get so over the top. He can play a little flatter. Still don't think it's a good excuse, but that could be kind of what's going through his head. As you can see, he does kind of, get flat towards the sideline rather than really getting downhill and reacting to anything. Bryan, I think that might be what's going through Sorensen's head, but is there anything else from this play that kind of leaves you scratching your head?
The good news with it is maddening as it is to watch, these things that they've messed up on are very correctable, and it's just like a lapse in technique and approach, because fitting there, the way that I've always been taught and taught it myself, if a receiver gets outside of you in a cover 2, a cloud corner situation like that, you have to turn and run with him. You can't just hang out down low near the line of scrimmage, because things like this can happen when they get to the outside like that. But then on Sorensen's end, I don't blame Spagnuolo a ton on this particular play. It's the kind of formation that you would call this type of coverage against, 2x2, pretty evenly distributed throughout the sideline to sideline with the receivers. But like Sorensen turning his hips the way that he did right there, towards the inside of the center of the field, he's only being asked to cover, I guess, a little greater than half the field. Now, is that something he's still capable of at this point in his career? That's up for debate. But a lot of what I'm seeing is just mental. Like, that's a mental error, and that's a poor angle. I don't know that they're asking him to do too much in that situation. I just think he makes a mistake. He's over aggressive, lapse in concentration, and the results are what they are. And unfortunately, this happened way too many times Sunday, and was a big reason why they lost the game.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned it before we actually started going. We were talking a little bit that we've seen Sorensen get destroyed as a deep half safety at times. Against Buffalo stands out, and actually, as I remember, it was actually Stephon Diggs running a corner post, and Sorensen just bit so hard on the corner that it just gave him no room to correct himself and get back in a trailing position to take, to tackle on the post route. So, yeah, I just think it's why I say it's kind of on Spagnuolo is just I feel like we've seen what happens when you put him in a deep safety role. And I actually had this rant on the podcast, and I'll actually talk about it as we transition to the next play. But I don't get what is the point of even getting into the dime package anymore? At originally, I guess I just kind of, hey, Spags likes his, when he can get Sorensen in a blitzing role as a box safety, and still don't really understand Neiman ever being on the field. But if the dime position, if the dime package is taking your best linebackers off the field and then replacing them with Sorensen and Ben Neiman, at some point, like, that just shouldn't be part of your game plan or strategy anymore. Any takes on that before we get to the next play? It seems like we've always defaulted to, it's the dime defense. That's just who's in those roles. But why are we even calling the dime defense anymore if it results in those guys being in those positions? Like I said, any takes from you guys on the dime defense?
I would assume it's just a lesser of the evils. When you look around, and if it's not Sorensen, it's just going to be someone else out of place. So might as well have an actual safety there, right? I mean,
good point.
Yeah, and we've talked about it a little bit in previous weeks. I really thought before he ended up on the COVID reserve list, I thought that Nick Bolton was kind of looking like he was taking over that role for Neiman, at least. Like, they were trying to find ways to get him on the field more. And I don't know if him missing a week of practice in a game, kind of threw that off, and maybe they're just comfortable now sticking with what they used to do. But it's been going on for a few years now, and so it's just like, I don't know.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, ever since he's gotten here, he's had this dime package, and it's always featured Neiman. Dorian O'Daniel actually occupied the linebacker spot. Well, excuse me. Sorry, that was actually when Sutton was still here. My apologies. It always has been Ben Neiman since Spags has been here. I just don't really understand why, it doesn't make sense to me why that package continues to be called. But we'll continue to rant about that another day. Here, I wanted to show this play. It's actually a good play for the Chiefs. But it's kind of a foreshadowing of the last play that we'll get to. But it's a 3rd and 7 here in the second half. Important part of the game. Chiefs go cover 0 blitz, right? You see guys cover all 3 receivers, and then Thornhill is covering that tight end that stays in to block if he does release on a route. And obviously one of those linebackers would have the running back if he were to release. Obviously he's not when there's 7 guys coming at them, but it works here, right? It kind of forces Burrow into a off his back foot throw, which doesn't let him put as much power on it, which in my opinion, what that does is it throws the timing of the route off. And then Chase is actually catching this behind the sticks instead of right at the sticks, right? And that allows Fenton to make the tackle. And the guy Talon highlighted last play as maybe the scapegoat for that play, maybe a little bit. He makes a great play here, right? He knows where the sticks are. He kind of settles and doesn't allow himself to create, or Chase creates too much separation from himself. Although he kind of does a little bit, I guess. There's a little bit of separation there, but. I want your opinion on this one, Talon. This is a man coverage, obviously not a cover 2 zone like he was playing last time. But how do you like his play on the ball here, knowing he's on an island and everything?
I mean, he gets the job done, but he gets a lot of help from the receiver, right? Chase's angle back to the ball is so, it's pretty deep there to where he's going, back behind the first down. If he angles that a little bit more and catches that toward the sideline and at the stick, that's a first down, and that's Chase's doing. Fenton's, in my opinion, I don't think Fenton does anything here. He just makes the play he's supposed to make, and Chase didn't. If Chase catches this ball a little bit closer to that stick, this is a first down. Or if he does something a little bit different after he catches the ball, it's a first down. I just think Chase hurt himself here rather than Fenton really making the play. But
yeah, because I think Chase just stumbles out of his break, right? I think that's part of it too. It just looks like he kind of falls out a little bit. And like I said, if Burrow's able to get this ball out more cleanly, this ball's probably right on the sticks and it's probably a first down. So yeah, I think it could have been done better. But this is the thing. I mean, Spags kept putting these guys on islands, right? And get a guy like Jamar Chase is a hard guy to cover. So I'm sure Fenton's a little, and he was getting a few penalties this game, right? I mean, this is he was being a little handsy this game anyway. So,
yeah.
Bryan, how do you feel about the cover 0 decision on this? First of all, it's 3rd and 7. It's a risky play, and we'll talk about risky blitzes in a second. But I don't know. What'd you see from this play? Was it? Do you like? Let's just talk about this. Do you like Spags' tendency to just send the house on guys like this?
That's a perfect question because in this case it did work out, but I don't really like it. I certainly didn't like it this week, and we had discussions before the game. You and I and Christian, another one of our guys with AP, we were talking right before kickoff, and I just viewed this game as a chance for them to for Spagnuolo to have a tendency breaker type of day. Like everybody knows his DNA, his MO is these 3rd down pressures. He's sending 5, 6, 7 in this case. He loves to do it, but the way the matchup was constructed for this particular week, he could have, and did. We saw them get pressure with 4 guys, 3 guys if Chris Jones is one of the pass rushers coming. And you could have really made those throw-in lanes smaller, which for Joe Burrow and his receivers, okay, we know how special those receivers are. Burrow doesn't have the strongest arm, so shrinking those passing lanes a little bit, I think, would have played more into the Chiefs' hand. And so it was a chance, to me, it was a chance to just change things up and do things that they would not have expected, because everybody expects them to blitz the way that they did. It's just what they always do. So I don't know.
No,
not that
that's a good.
Yeah,
Spags that's a good point.
Great, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I love Spags too. I think Spags is a great defensive coordinator, and every defensive coordinator has their I mean, it's just like Andy Reid on offense. I mean, he's gonna run some stuff that we all want him to run other things sometimes, or not run inside outside zone every freaking run play, but that's what he does. So and he's a great play caller. But one thing before we move on to the ultimate play, one thing I failed to mention was there is one thing about like it being 3rd and 7. You're playing cover 0. That's a little different, right? You need some time for the routes to develop because they need to get 7 yards. But like if it's not like you're not fearing anyone going like super deep, right? Because Burrow does have to get the ball out of his hands quick. So it actually, I don't mind it maybe on a 3rd and 7 because I do think like the cornerbacks know like there's only so long the quarterback can hold on to the ball before he has to let this go. So I can play a little aggressively like Fenton does, although he still, like Talon mentioned, I mean, he still does get beat and Chase creates plenty of separation. But all that leads up to everyone's most memorable play from Sunday, our favorite, because we get to break it down for you guys here. The 3rd and 27 from the final Bengals drive as it loads here. But basically, we heard it after the game. Andy Reid even said, yeah, we, in retrospect, we probably should have, with hindsight, I should say, we probably should have given Chase a little help over the top, right? We should have put a little more help over the top of Chase. Went for 266 yards if we hadn't mentioned that yet, rookie record. But yeah, Travarius Ward singled up coverage on Jamar Chase here. Burrow just drops back, lets it rip against another cover 0 blitz, sending all 7 guys. And we'll get more into this, but I've already talked enough. I want your guys' just first reactions from the game, because as football guys, we all love the intricacies of football. That's why we do this. I'm sure we all kind of had our initial takes, like it's 3rd and 27, but we see the whole house being sent at Joe Burrow. Bryan, I want to start with your take. What was just your initial reaction to seeing, the strategy and just the play unfold, I guess?
To be honest with you, when this was going on, I was not even really like thinking a whole lot about what they were doing up front. I was just so like, I guess, on edge, and I wasn't super confident, mostly because, and I'm not going to get off onto a tangent about this, but I was extremely concerned about there being a penalty after the play, really, no matter what happened. But as I see, as we watch it more, one thing that really frustrates me on Ward's part, and Ward should not have been left one-on-one. I want to make that very clear. But why are you up pressing, okay, and then you go with a soft press, right? So he doesn't even make an effort to use his hands. And a lot of times that's okay. But I think with Jamar Chase, that was not the move. Like, you basically just let him run this vertical route just as he would on air. And you tried to run with him because you came from a soft press position. Why not play off like Fenton does at the bottom of the screen and, put yourself in a better position to play the ball at least? Because when you don't even get physical with him at the line of scrimmage, it really doesn't matter that you're pressing in this situation. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times I'm good with the soft press, but here it makes no sense. I think it leaves him in no man's land.
Talon, I heard you nodding along to Bryan. What do you got to say about this play?
Yeah, spot on. I agree 100%. Why are we up on the line of scrimmage against Jamar Chase on 3rd and 27? And why are we sitting in the house? There's just so many questions. Why this? Why that? Why him? Why now? I don't. It's just. So I think this is one where they're going to look at and say, this is one we got it wrong. And Bryan alluded to it earlier, Coach Reid, I think they know it. They know in house that was wrong and they made a mistake. There's nothing else to say about it. We're not going to do that again. So, and Spag's been around enough. He knows, and Reid doesn't have to go in and have a long sit down. They know, right? We know. If we know, they know. So I think this is something that we will see adjusted in the future. I don't see this happening again.
Yeah, it seemed like he was kind of taming his blitz strategy a little more in this win streak, in terms of, it just felt like he was like, it wasn't just every time there was a 3rd down. It was pretty, random. And they actually did drop in blitz rate. They were like 2nd in the league for most of this year. It's actually gone down to like 8th or 9th over the last few games. And maybe that's just because they haven't been playing anybody. They've kind of been blowing teams out a little bit and not having to necessarily blitz as much. But yeah, I really don't like it here. Bryan, I want to go back to something you mentioned. Fenton in this off coverage down on the bottom of the screen. Now, I'm not 100% aware of like the strategies in terms of like, do you think Fenton was told to do that, or was this like kind of up to both of them? Because why is Chase being the one with press coverage and Higgins the one with this off kind of safer coverage? it just seems like they're kind of almost telling Burrow, like, hey, if you want to convert this, the one way you're going to do it is by throwing to the best receiver on your team and the guy you've been wanting to all. Like, they're almost daring Burrow to throw to Chase here. Like, why isn't Higgins pressed up then? I just, and I know in the slot Snead is, Snead's pressing. It looks like Boyd there, but I don't know. I want to hear you guys' takes maybe, or just let's talk this out. Like, why is one guy playing off, the other playing in man? Like, is that a preference thing by each corner, I should say, or like, is that a scheme thing? I really don't know.
My guess, just because they are doing different things, is that this was kind of more of like a up to them type of situation. Maybe like, okay, see which guy's across from you. What are you comfortable doing? Because I think and I could be wrong, but I think if they were calling this in from the sideline, they would say, all right, as a whole, we're going to play off, or as a whole, we're going to press up, that sort of thing. And I still don't get me wrong. The call sucks either way, because say Higgins runs a slant, that puts Fenton in a tough spot. He's got to come up and make a tackle in space.
So on that point real quick, while you're on that point, that's what I was just thinking too. If you play off everywhere, if a guy just catches it and makes one guy miss, is a touchdown too. So I guess that's why we're talking this out, right? Like, I guess I don't really like, is it more beneficial, or is it maybe a little safer actually to play press? So at least if the guy catches it, you're right there, right? I mean, like, but at the same time, you could just get beat off the line and then you're wide open. So I don't know. I went to Bryan there. Talon, what are you thinking when we're talking about this kind of topic?
I mean, yeah, it's almost like the mentality of we're stopping them or they're scoring. Something's happening. We're sending everybody. If we're not getting to the quarterback, then our defensive backs have to make a play. And yeah, I kind of agree with Bryan. I think that was Ward's decision to man press Jamar Chase one-on-one, because I can't think of an NFL coach who would tell Ward to do that. But you never know, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it would make sense, right? Like, it's Ward being confident, like, hey, I got this guy. I defended a pass his way one time earlier in the game, did the gritty right after, and all of a sudden Chase went off after that. Just fair warning next time, Ward, maybe save the dancing for after the game. But yeah, no, I maybe that is the thought process though, Talon. You say kind of just do or die, right? Like, you either get a sack or they're scoring. But maybe that's it, right? Maybe they're just like, you know what, screw it. Like, if we don't get the sack, like, they score, we get the ball back, right? That's still not the best strategy, because it could turn into this where they get out of bounds and then they can run clock and stuff. But I don't know. Yeah, I again, just not my favorite play call here. I think we all agree. We can all tell. And this is our final play of the night. So last takes on this play, last takes on just the defense in general right now. Let's end on this, guys. Should we be super concerned? I mean, I know we kind of already said, Bengals weren't the better team. It was kind of, a game of maybe the Chiefs not adjusting in terms of like the game plan. But should this performance give us any, like, should we feel less good about the Chiefs' chances at beating, teams in the playoffs? I know we should feel worse about the chance of going to the Super Bowl, because now they don't have the dang 1 seed. Although, we're Houston Texans fans, so you never know. But no, I'll start with Bryan. What's your kind of going into the postseason? Because we're here, right? We're only 1 week away now, and they're going to be playing a wild card weekend. How are you feeling about the defense based on this performance?
So I've heard some people say maybe this is what the team and the defense needed right before the playoffs, kind of like a little, wake up call to focus them back in and just get them back on track, seeing what they can do week to week to best combat whoever they're playing. A lot of times I'd say, okay, no, that's kind of silly. Just win the football game. But in this particular case, the reason why I do think it is good is because the lesson has been learned, and they're not done yet. They didn't lose this game as a playoff game, because you look at it, they're going to play probably the Chargers and or the Bengals during the playoffs. They might play them both in back-to-back weeks, and both teams to me are very reminiscent of each other. They're going to do a lot of the same things. They're going to try to win like this on the outside lane, throwing the ball up a little bit.
Yeah.
And now there's no excuse. Yeah, you had an 8-game winning streak and your defense gave up, 13 points a game, something to that effect. But now you realize again, okay, no, we're not invincible. There are matchups like this where we can't just run our stuff. Sometimes you have to do things based on who's on the other side of the ball. You can't just say, well, this is what we do and it's going to be okay, because that's what they tried on Sunday, and that's why they lost the game for the most part. But I'd rather learn that now than in 2 or 3 weeks and it be the end of their season. So if you learn from it, and I think they will, it can serve them well. There's no doubt about it. So that's my glass half full take on that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, and you're right. They're going to see these teams if they're going to win the AFC. It's all about quarterbacks, man. And Burrow is one of the best in the NFL right now already, honestly. And Herbert has the talent to be. He's a little more inconsistent, but Talon, same question. Long-term outlook going into the postseason. Does this game at all kind of impact how you feel about the defense?
I think, you know what, it might give me a little bit more confidence in them, to be honest with you, because now we know exactly what this defense is, what they can do, what situations they need to, what to run when, right? With the personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And this maybe have been that game like, hey, we've been rolling here on defense. Let's push the limits a little further now. How good are we? How good is Ward? How good is Fenton? Well, now we know, right?
Yeah.
So going into the playoffs, the Chiefs know what they have. Spagnuolo knows what he has. He knows what plays he can call, when to call, and what works, what doesn't work against a playoff caliber team. So this game, even though it's a loss, even though they lost the 1 seed, this might actually benefit them a little bit more in the playoffs than we might realize right now.
Man, that's actually a fantastic point in terms of like, hey, let's see how far we can go. Let's see how good these corners are, because, man, how good have Rashad Fenton and Charvarius Ward been this year? I mean, just absolute studs all year, pretty much. They haven't really run into, they kind of got lucky not having to play Aaron Rodgers with Devontae Adams, and they didn't have Amari Cooper with Dak Prescott. And yeah, I like that point, man. Spags kind of just, and see, that's the thing. It ties into Brian's point too, is they're not out of the playoffs because they lost, right? This loss didn't, it does hurt, because I think Andy wanted that 1 seed, and I think the whole team knows how valuable that 1 seed is. So no, it's not like anyone's saying they were trying to lose or that they didn't care about winning. But I do think there is something to Spags testing that and kind of testing his confidence in his cornerbacks, right? The corners aren't going to come back and get upset with Spags that they trusted or that he trusted them, right? Like, it's not like they're going to come back and be like, why'd you put me in an island with Jamar Chase? No, they're saying, you put me on an island, you trusted me, and I didn't get the job done. Whether or not that was, they should have had some help, right? I mean, no one's saying the island should have happened. It's just that now Spags is showing that he has a lot of confidence in these guys. So even when they do get to a point in the playoffs, maybe where they are giving them more help, they're not just trusting them on these type of islands. They know in the back of their head that Spags does trust them. And then in certain situations, obviously, that confidence will pay off in terms of winning a one-on-one battle, right? Cornerback's all about confidence. Those are great points. Honestly, I made me all fired up thinking about, the future of this defense, because we got a playoff run, fellas. It's going to be exciting. We're going to break it all down. We got one more game. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. One more game against Denver in Week 18. It's on Saturday for whatever reason, but that'll be fun. But yeah, then it's the AFC playoffs. We're going to be right here on the AP Film Room on the YouTube page, breaking down the plays. It'll only get more and more intense and exciting as we go, obviously, and hopefully this is the last time we have to break down a losing game, right, guys? Hopefully it's the final time a loss has to happen on the AP Film Room. Guys, it was a great time. Send it off. Where can they find you on social media and stuff? Brian.
Yeah, so you see there on the screen, if you're watching on Twitter, I am at Bryan Stewart _. Actually, right about the time that this video is dropping this week, I'll have a film article up. I had a little more pleasant time. I got to look at the offense, and I really focused on the offensive line in particular, just because that nightmare scenario that they were presented with, where they lost both of their tackles within the first 5 plays of the game, and how they handled that. And that's another. I think that article will make fans feel pretty good too, and not for lack of good reason. I mean, there was a lot of good things that they can build on. The offense is playing as good as they have maybe all year, especially when it comes to not turning the ball over too. So it's good stuff.
Absolutely. And yeah, no, good call and plugging that, Brian. I got a film review out on what we just talked about. So if you want to just have a more formalized, readable version of what you just saw, go read that on the site. But Talon, he's kind of heading our draft stuff right now. Talon, we know we got draft stuff coming out for you, but just say goodbye to the people.
All right. Yeah, it was a good one. Glad to be back. Ron and Brian killed it last week when I was, spending the day in the bathroom. But it was good to see you guys killing it. But yeah, man, we've got some good draft stuff coming up. I have a draft article dropping later this week, possibly early next week. But be on the lookout for that. It will be dropping soon. But thanks for tuning in and looking forward to speaking about more Chiefs wins.
Yes. And when, unfortunately, that season does come to an end, as we kind of alluded to, we'll be getting into the draft, fellas. So everyone listening, watching, I'm sure you're a big draft geek. I think we all are at this point. Draft's so fun to kind of follow. So we'll be getting your draft stuff. But for now, we're going to keep covering the Chiefs. Appreciate you watching, and we will catch you next week. Thank you.